Chapters 9 and 10 in the text cover notes, mortgages, and trust deeds. It has been interesting to observe that in the past few years it has been more frequent that houses have been purchased with all cash, at least in Oregon. However, most of the time houses are purchased with a down payment and financing from a lending institution. While the lending institution is not on title, they will typically have more risk than the homeowner. Why? Typically, the new homeowner will have 5, 10, or sometimes as much as 20% into the property at the outset of the purchase. The homeowner's equity of 5, 10, or 20% being the down payment. That means that the bank has at risk 95, 90, or 80% of the value of the property. The bank, being the lending partner, has the bigger risk and the bigger investment in the house. How does the bank protect its investment, which is the loan? The bank will ask the prospective borrower to complete a loan application. The application begins the process of the bank underwriting or preparing to fund a new loan. After doing due diligence on the prospective borrower and the prospective house to be purchased, the bank will request the borrower to sign a loan agreement or a promissory note, the loan agreement and the promissory note being the same, for the amount being borrowed to purchase the house. The promissory note is a contract between the borrower and the bank. The borrower promises to make a payment on the note on a regular basis on the due date, which is typically each month. Now here is where the bank minimizes the risk of losing their investment or principal of the loan. The bank has the borrower sign another document besides the note, and that document is a security instrument we generally call a mortgage. But in many states, the security instrument is actually a trust deed. It is the contractual obligation in the security agreement that gives the bank confidence in making the loan. If the borrower does not make the payments as obligated in the note, the bank has the ability to take legal action against the borrower. That legal action is to first accelerate the loan, meaning the full amount of the loan principal and accrued interest becomes due and payable. If the borrower does not then pay the full amount of the loan by the date designated, the bank has the right to sell the property in order to recoup the loan principal and accrued interest owed, plus expenses. This process is called foreclosure. It should be understood that banks are in the business of lending money. They want borrowers to make their payments on time. Foreclosure is the leverage a bank has to incent borrowers to do everything in their power to make good on the loan. Banks are not anxious at all to begin a foreclosure. Foreclosure is a lengthy legal process. Repossessing a house will often result in getting a house back that has fix-up costs associated with it, which the bank has to manage. It will require a real estate agent to sell the property after it's fixed up, and that real estate agent will require a commission to be paid. And real estate markets go in cycles. It may not be able to be sold at the best time. It may be a down market. No, banks are very reluctant to foreclose. Banks will try to work with borrowers and have options in helping a borrower to make payments and keep their house. It was mentioned earlier that there are generally two types of security instruments, a mortgage and a trust deed. Generally, we often speak as a mortgage being the security instrument. In fact, in many states, the security instrument is a trust deed. And there are distinct differences between a trust deed and a mortgage. Those differences have to do with who manages the foreclosure, what are eligible assets to be pursued to obtain the loan obligations, and the time it takes to complete a foreclosure. In the United States, different states use either a mortgage or a trust deed as the security instrument to ensure repayment of the loan. Many eastern states in the United States use a mortgage, and many western states, including California, Oregon, and Washington, use the trust deed. With a mortgage, there are basically two parties: the bank, sometimes referred to as the mortgagee, and the borrower, sometimes referred to as the mortgagor. With a trust deed, there are basically three parties: the bank, sometimes referred to as the beneficiary, the borrower, and the trustee, which is an independent third party. Typically, that independent third party is an escrow company or often a title company. The trust deed is usually a faster foreclosure process, can be as short as 6 months. The mortgage is a slower foreclosure process. With a trust deed, when the borrower defaults in making loan payments, the bank informs the trustee and the trustee handles the foreclosure process. The only recourse for the loan, in terms of getting back their money, is the real property secured by the trustee. With a mortgage, however, the bank manages the foreclosure process, not a trustee. With a mortgage, the foreclosure process moves through the court system. The courts can be a slow process, usually at least 1 year. With a mortgage, however, the bank is not limited to just the real property involved. The courts have the ability to dispose of other borrower assets in order to meet the financial obligations of the residential loan. Other assets could include personal property such as cars, RVs, boats, other real estate owned, business interests, etc. There are other important details about mortgages and deeds of trust in chapters 9 and 10, but we've covered the big picture basics. That concludes a short review of chapters 9 and 10. Chapters 11, 12, 13, and 14 will follow in the next YouTube. Thanks for listening.